going to show you how to do some horizontal, vertical and diagonal foiling. Before you start, make sure you've got your gloves on, powder-free, non-latex gloves, so that your hands are protected from dermatitis, and wear your apron to protect your clothing. I've got a few different kinds of foils here. So I've got different coloured foils, which are by Weller. These are really good for if you've got a client that needs 2 or 3 colours, you can use a different foil. So they're really handy to have if you're foiling. I've also got different techniques that you can do with foiling. You might want to use a little easy mesh, which are the packets, same sort of principle, but they just stick together like that. Or you might want to use wraps. Everybody's individual and everybody will use something different. Make sure then that you've got your colour mix ready. I've mixed it to the correct ratio following the manufacturer's instructions. And I've got my comb ready in a barber side. The black and white towel is ready to that you would use to put around your client if you're doing a colour. And that's just at our college at Nelson and Cone. If you were at another college it might be different, but for here, black and white towel, which are just for colours. So I've sectioned this doll, I've sectioned it from the ear to the crown and over back to the ear again. So we've just got 2 panels at the front, and then the back has been sectioned into a hot cross bun into 4 equal sections. I'm going to start working on this first section that I've left down. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to section a panel off there, clip that up out the way, like so. I'm just going to work on this panel first. Get your tail comb out to your barber side, which is a disinfectant solution that keeps your combs clean and disinfected. They won't go in unless you've actually cleaned them and washed them first, but then put them in afterwards in between clients. So take a little fine section off the top there. I'm going to do horizontal because these are going to be led down that way first. Now pick up my first section, I'm just going to lightly weave it out, lift it up so that it's separated there. Pop your foil underneath, make sure it goes over your comb like that, and push it up to the roots, and then take your comb out of the way. Get your colour now, but don't paste it really up to the top of the foil there, unless you'll get a bit of seepage. Just paste it there. Seepage is when it oozes out of the top of the foil. Just work up to the roots there, and then just paste it down. Fold the bottom, fold it in half again. Flatten it down with your comb, and then crease either side, making sure that the hair is nice and secure in the foil. What I'm going to do, I'm just work my way up, so I've just put some foils in here. If you notice I'm leaving gaps in between, like I've done on this one, I've nearly reached the top of this horizontal foiled section now. So I'm just going to weave them out. If the hair, the colour I'm putting on today is actually a colour that's not going to make a massive impact, but it's just for a training purpose. If it was a real client, then depending on the hair base, depending on what colour I'd use, if the hair was Asian hair that was quite a dark base, then I'd be looking at using maybe a mild form of bleach, or maybe Magma, which is a Weller product which has been designed and created to lift a base of 2 to 6, which is very much Asian hair types. So I'm just going to paste this down through that now. A good thing as well is to start counting your foils so that you can estimate how many you're going to put in. So at the end, when you put all your foils in, count them and just estimate actually how many you've got in, which will help you for preparation in future clients. Just folding these sides in now. And that section is done because that piece there would be left down. So now we've got some foils. Always have a little look underneath now. Make sure that you haven't got any seepage on them. Seepage is where you'd see the colour oozing out of the bottom. If you have, put a length of cotton wool in between each foil, just so that it doesn't touch on this sort of hair that's left in between. Always leave some in between so that it will give a streaky effect. So that is the section finished for horizontal foiling. What I would like you to do now is have a practice just at that section first, and then we'll move on to the vertical section in the foils. I'm going to do some vertical foiling. Vertical are very much like these blinds behind us, vertical blinds. It means that the hair is going to be sectioned that way. This is going to give the colour a nice shattering through the haircut when you've finished it. Really good if the hair's been laid through, because you'll see the layers and the haircut a little bit better. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start by taking my first section. A little bit more fiddly. You've got to slightly bend the doll down a little bit. So I want to take the top off like I did last time. Hold it back. Weave out my section. It's getting quite static as the doll. Hold that back. I'm going to change the colour of my foil just to make it look a bit different, but you can just use it exactly the same as what you have in your kit. Put it on there and hold it now this way. Hold it across and support it towards the head. Paste the colour on like we did last time, making sure we don't go past the end of that line there. And then work it down. Paste it all the way through the hair. And then we want to be turning the bottom of the foil up, exactly as we did with the others, and bringing the two lines together there. Flatten it down, and then we need to crease the bottom of the section and crease the top of the section, like so. So that is going to stick out more like that sort of an effect. I'm going to take another section and do exactly the same again. I'm going to now do some diagonal foiling, which is foiling going on a diagonal line. Diagonal is connecting two lines together, which it is under there. If you look underneath, I'm going to go diagonally up. I might hit a point where that area there is definitely too wide for my foil, so I might need to do it in two foils to make it fit. So I'm going to start with the bottom panel. This is obviously going to be a really small little piece because of the size of the start of the section. Take that up, clip it up out the way. Again, this is very popular in salons. Another method of doing a diagonal type of foiling is called herringbone, something that you're going to have a practice at later on throughout your programme. So I'm just going to take that section up, part it like that. I'm going to use blue this time, just to keep that colour changing. Hold it up to the hair like that and bring it down. Again, exactly like we've done before. And paste it down through the section. I tend to turn the bottom of my foil up just so that I'm guaranteed that straight line. If that line there isn't perfectly straight, it ensures that that one is. Try and get out the habit of doing that or that, because that means if you do that, your comb is then full of colour and contaminated, which isn't good to weave your next section out with. I'm just going to wipe it thoroughly on my towel before I carry on. If you look, what happens is it removes the colour away from the hair, so you could potentially end up with a length of hair where you've put your comb on and worked it across to get a line, quite patchy. I'm just gonna fill that little bit in a bit there. So now bring it up, join your lines together like we've been doing before, like so, and crease the sides like so. Go for my next panel. Don't take them too thick because we want the foils to be nice and shatter throughout the hair. I'm now building up to the top area of this section. Like I say, I had to go into two for some of them because it was too wide. So now I can go back into one foil. Make sure you put your comb over. Hold it nice and close to that scalp and hold it down. Make sure, like I said before, we don't go too far past the end of that foil. Paste the colour down. Make sure your sections are just right size as well, because if you get too much, then you won't coat the underneath with colour, so the colour will be patchy again. Fold the foils up, bring them together, crease the sides. It is important to crease the sides because you're just ensuring that that colour's not going to seep out or swell, especially if it's bleach. This foil will swell when it's got under heat, so you don't want it oozing out to the side of the packet. I'm going to leave it at that. This panel here would also continue up that area there. And then the front, I'd probably do the same, the diagonal. I wouldn't do all these 3 techniques on one though like I've done today. This is just a demonstration purpose. You can either do them horizontal, which is going down, you can do them vertical, which we have under here, that are vertically going, standing up more, or the diagonal effect. This is probably the most popular, but a lot of, when you start working and practicing in hairdressing, you tend to do a lot of horizontal foiling. Over time, you pick your technique depending on maybe how the client wants the foils to lie, how the haircut is, and how much you're going to layer the haircut to emphasise. Like I was saying earlier on, estimation is really important. So I'm going to count how many foils I've put in. So I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4 there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 foils have got in, which has covered potentially about half of the head, because we've got another 3 panels there and we've used 3 panels there. So estimate how many you're going to use, because it is important, because it'll give you a gauge of how many foils you can prep, as long as you know your client's length of hair before they arrive, so that you can be prepared and organised for your client if they're booked in for some foils. Another thing is, on estimation, is estimate how much colour you need. If I had to do that last panel, which that would probably do it for me, so I'm not wasting any colour. It's all about sustainability. The more that you waste here, you're going to throw down the basin and you're not going to have as many profits in your salon. So you need to use products cost effectively, and also make sure you mix the right ratio so that the colour will develop correctly. Only way you're going to find that out is by looking at the manufacturer instructions. They're in every single box of colour, so make sure you have a read at those. If you don't understand them, come and have a word with your tutor, because it's important that you get the right ratio so that it'll take well on the hair itself.